Hi, I'm Adam Drake, and today we're going to talk about shock bladders and the different handling characteristics that you're going to notice when going from a soft shock bladder to a stiff shock bladder or vice versa. So we'll start with the stock Mugen bladder. It's actually pretty soft. There isn't really much reinforcement behind the bladder. And with the softer bladder, you're going to notice kind of the most plush feel. It's going to be the best on lower grip tracks and also really bumpy tracks. As you go to a stiffer bladder like the Flashpoint bladder, or I believe these are maybe even TLR bladders. I don't have any of the fast race bladders just because I don't ever use them. But the more membrane style bladders, that would be like the extreme or the most stiffest bladder. What you're going to notice as you go from like a Mugen bladder all the way to a membrane bladder is as you increase the stiffness of the bladder, the vehicle is also going to drive flatter and a bit stiffer on the track. So that's going to be really good when the track is high speed and flat. The car is going to drive a little bit flatter. But when it gets bumpy, it's just going to have a more harsh or rigid feeling around the track. So typically when I run bladders, I always run the Mugen, just standard stock bladders. There are times in the past where I've used the Flashpoint bladders, but for the most part, what I've learned is that if it's a track where I'm going to run bladders, I like to run the softest possible bladder, which is the Mugen bladder. And then if I want that feeling of the car driving a little bit flatter, not really, I guess being a little bit more precise, not really rolling quite as much off center, I would just go to an emulsion style shock cap. We'll do a video talking about emulsion versus bladder, but today I just kind of want to focus on the bladders and just give you a little bit of insight so that you know kind of how or why to tune your car. Because I think when something new comes out or someone sees someone having success with a particular product, they just want to bolt it on their car. And I don't think that's always the best way to go for the average guy. To me, the testing that I've done with the stiffer membrane style bladders, it does give a little bit more corner speed because with the car driving flatter, you don't have that kind of roll or almost wiggle mid-corner. It will kind of carve and be a little bit sharper through the middle of the corner. But I don't think that's what most people want, especially on US style tracks. Maybe in Europe that would be good, but I feel like on the US style tracks, typically it gets a little bit bumpy. The tracks are a little bit lower grip and not as high speed as in Europe. So for the US style tracks, I think the softer bladder works better. It goes through the bumps better. It generates a little bit more grip. The only downside to it is it maybe doesn't land the large jumps that have like flat landers quite as good. And if the track has like a high speed chicane where you need a lot of precision, the soft bladder can kind of feel lazy in those conditions. But again, we'll talk about what you can do tuning wise with your shocks in those conditions in a later video when we talk a little bit more about the emulsion style shock caps. So for today, just want to keep focused on the bladders. And again, soft bladders is what I feel is best for the US style tracks. If you are racing in Europe, try out the stiffer bladders like the Flashpoint bladders or maybe the fast race bladders and see how they work on your vehicle.